Welcome to At Home with Music. We've been talking about modes, and I mentioned in my last video that one of the best ways to help you understand how these modes work is to examine some songs that employ these modes. And so that's what we're going to do in this video. I've selected a few songs that are very well known and that use modes. So this first song is an old English folk ballad known as Scarborough Fair. So take a look at this lead sheet that I've put together. You can see that it's a very simple, very beautiful melody. I've put the chords in there, and let's see if we can figure out what mode is being employed in this song. Well, I already know, but let's see if you can figure it out. So we're starting out, and it looks like we're in the key of D minor at first, doesn't it? But then notice this next chord. That chord doesn't really belong in the key of D minor. If we were playing this in actual D minor, doesn't sound quite right, does it? Doesn't sound like Scarborough Fair anymore. We're so used to that other chord. You can almost hear it in your mind when the song begins. So, we're going from D minor into a C major chord. So can you think of a mode where the tonal center is D? You can see that this song starts on D and it ends on D. But it's not really D minor. So what mode is it? It's actually D Dorian. How do we know that? Well, the D Dorian scale, you remember we end up with these chords. D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished, and there is C, the second chord in this song, and it resolves to D minor. So we have D minor, C minor, not C minor, C, D minor. You'll notice all the chords I'm playing here belong in the Dorian mode. Notice how that G gives it a very unique flavor. That's a very characteristic sound of the Dorian mode. There's that C again. So this song is in D Dorian. We can also play this in E Dorian. This, for example, is the mode that is used when Simon and Garfunkel did this song. There is that beautiful chord that really gives it that flavor. So just like we did in D Dorian, we played all the chords. We can do the same thing in E Dorian. So there's a song that definitely is in a mode, and in this case it is in the Dorian mode. So we've played it in D Dorian and we've played it in E Dorian. So a challenge for you would be now to try playing this in the Dorian mode starting on other keys. And so on. The next song I want to look at is a Southern American folk tune called I Am a Poor Wayfaring Stranger. Perhaps this is a familiar tune to many of you. Now, as you look at this lead sheet, you'll notice that I've already put the chords in, and we start in A minor. with an A minor chord. But this song, like Scarborough Fair, employs a mode. So let's see if we can figure out what mode we are using. Well, of course, I already know, but I want to see if you can figure it out. So far, each chord I'm using could also be part of just the straight A minor key signature. Still, sounds like A minor. Even this F chord. But what about this next chord? This G7 chord is not really part of the A minor key signature if you're strictly doing the diatonic thing here, where you're using chords that are part of the traditional A minor. So we have a G7. Well, this is our first clue that we are now dealing with a mode. And then the G7 chord comes again, and it resolves to A minor. It's looking very much like we are in A, Aeolian. So we have these chords. We have A minor, diminished, B diminished, C major, D minor, E minor, F, G, there's our G chord, and then back on A minor. So we are in A, Aeolian. Another mode that sounds very sad. Here's a song that employs the A, Aeolian mode. Now, we're going to do a little bit of an experiment here. We're going to switch to using D as our tonic center. But we're going to pull a little bit of a switch here and take a look at the chords now that I have here. We are not in D Aeolian, but we are in straight D minor. Or you can play it this way. That A chord, or A7, the way I'm playing it, that gives it away, doesn't it? This is the same. We have switched back to the mode. Notice the chords we're using here. We're going from that C, or actually a C7, to D minor. Why didn't we use an A there? Well, it's because of where the melody goes. If we use an A7, that sounds pretty harsh. And so we have to use the C7 chord. And then notice the melody goes to an E there. We could actually throw an A7 in there. And then back to D minor. So now we have a combination of D minor and D Aeolian. Let's play it in one other key. I've got a third key here. One of the fun things about working with modes is that you can play these starting anywhere on the keyboard. Now, I'm going to play this for you 2 times. First, I'm going to play it in traditional B minor. Then I'm going to play it again in B Aeolian. Aeolian has a specific set of whole steps and half steps, just like any scale. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole. And it's that whole step at the end that gives it a distinctive flavor. Here it is in B minor. This is just the regular B minor key, and you'll notice the chords that I'm using here. There's our clue that we are actually in B minor. Now we have switched to the mode. Now here it is in straight B Aeolian. No chords outside of this mode. Take that last line. There's another chord I could have stuck in there. That's still part of the mode. Here's a question for you. Which do you like better? Do you like this Wayfaring Stranger played in straight B minor with a little bit of an excursion into B Aeolian, or do you like it in pure B Aeolian mode? Now, I have a particular preference, but I want to hear what you have to say about it. All right, we've got another song to look at. This one's for all you Beatles fans out there. Famous song, mainly written by John Lennon with some help from Paul McCartney, called Norwegian Wood. Here's the tune. Listen very carefully to the tune. See if you can figure out, just from listening to this, what mode they might be using here. You'll notice that it sounds like just a straight major key, but then you get to this part, and that should give you a very strong clue that we are actually not in a regular major key, but we are employing a mode. So which mode is it? Well, to make it even easier, let's take a look at the chords. So we're going from F to G. And you'll notice that unlike the first 2 songs, which were in Dorian and Aeolian, they sound very sad. You know, they start on minor chords. But now we're in a major, sort of a happier sounding thing. But yet, instead of, we have this F to G. So what mode are we in? Well, that F to G thing, having them both be major chords, should give you a big clue. We are actually in G You remember how we talked about finding all the modes? We started with a C Aeolian, and then by starting on each successive note of the C major scale, we found the other modes: Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian. And so we have these chords: G major, A minor, B diminished, C, D minor, E minor, there's our F. And that can resolve back to G in G Mixolydian. Gives it kind of an exotic sound. Now, what the Beatles do here, because they just do whatever they think sounds good, it actually switches to another key. So it sounds like G minor. It's G Dorian. See, if we were to play this in D Dorian, we recognize that, don't we? Here it is in G Dorian. And then back again. But now look what happens. Well, where did that come from? So they have a C in the melody, which fits C major, and it also fits A minor. And A minor leads you to this D, and now back to G. So for a second there, we're actually in G major now. We have the 2, 5, 1. But when we get back to the 1, it switches immediately back to G Mixolydian. Very clever. Definitely an example of a song that takes us through 3 different keys. We start in G Mixolydian, and then we go to G Dorian, briefly, just from those 2 chords. And then briefly into G major, and then back to what sounds at first like G major, but then when we hit this, we know that we are back in G Mixolydian. So I hope you've been able to follow along with this. You may have to watch this video a couple more times to figure out what's going on. I've got one more song that I want to analyze, but this video is getting too long. So what I'm going to do is take another very famous song that actually starts in a mode, very recognizable. Then it goes into a major key, and then back to the mode. And you'll find as you begin to listen to and analyze your favorite songs, folk tunes, pop songs, many of them will employ modes and then switch to major or minor keys and then switch back to the mode. That happens all the time in popular music, especially in later pop music. You know, a lot of the Tin Pan Alley songwriters, they wrote particularly in the romantic normal keys, and they would modulate a lot and use outside keys. It'll be fascinating to analyze some of their tunes as well. But right now, we're talking about songs that use modes, maybe all the way through, maybe part of the way through, back and forth between modes and traditional keys. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful. I think you'll have a lot of fun analyzing your favorite songs in this way. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, or if there's a particular song that to you sounds like, hey, this song must use some modes, let's analyze it together. Let me know what song you've got in mind, and we'll take a look at it. I look forward to speaking to you in the next one.